hope you're buckled up in Broncos country because the Denver Broncos are about to make a huge move. What's up? I'm Ben. If you're new to this channel, I break down all things Denver sports, and I'm so happy to have you along for the ride. So let's get into the news of the day and the big move the Denver Broncos are about to make to shock everybody, except for us if we've been diehards of this. So big news of the day is that our stud tight end, Greg Dulich, who has flashed, who has really had us all like crazy hopeful, is back. He has had that nagging hamstring injury, and we remember he was kind of fast-tracked to return to that game against the Chiefs on Thursday night. I believe it was week 6 that they put him back in. He re-injured it. A lot of pundits and a lot of people were talking about, man, Payton should have just kept him out one more week. He would have had 10 more days because of that little mini bye that you have by playing on a Thursday night. But he re-injured it, but now he is back. We just see the importance of a stud tight end in a Sean Payton offense and in a successful Russell Wilson offense. We know Sean Payton won the Super Bowl with Jeremy Shockey, and then Jimmy Graham making Russell Wilson's life so much easier. And this week we see the Broncos had their most dominating win of the year with their best drive of the year, that 7-minute drive to ice the game at the end. And it's tight end production that gives Russell Wilson that outlet in the middle. He needs a big tight end in the middle. He's a shorter guy in the pocket, and having a big tight end like Greg Dulich in the middle as his pressure release valve. We know he's been using Samaje Perine as that little dump off who led the team in catches against the Chiefs. But having a tight end back is going to be crucial for what the Broncos are going to need to do, and Dulich now is back. Now, we are not 1,000% sure whether or not Dulich will suit up on Saturday night against the Lions, but the fact is he will be there for our playoff run. We know that we're getting greedy, Broncos country, in saying we're going to run the table and win the next 4. I think we will, but even if we lose this game this week to the Lions, we are still very, very much in the playoff hunt. We are the hottest team in the NFL, and no one is doubting that. We are 6-1 over our last 7 games, with our one loss being a loss where we lost the turnover battle and had a punt blocked, and still we're on the 8-yard line with 4 attempts and threw a jump ball to a practice squad tight end to seal the game and actually lose. But don't fool yourself. We are really the inverse of this Lions team who started hot and now are peaking. We started cold and have hit our fire, hit our stride, and everything has changed, and we are good. After this game this week, we have 3 backup quarterbacks who most diehard NFL fans couldn't even name the next 3 quarterbacks that we're going to play. And so things are great. But we got a big game this week against the Detroit Lions. And I'm just here to say, I am so happy that we have Sean Payton and not Dan Campbell. I think you have seen that Dan Campbell has the ability to be just the best motivator in the NFL for short terms. Like if you're looking for somebody to help you max out your bench press, you want Dan Campbell behind you just yelling at you, who's going to carry the boats? Like he is an incredible motivator, telling people we're going to bite them by their kneecaps. I'm sure his pregame locker rooms like get you super, super hyped. But what you see is that hype can wear off fast. I remember hearing an interview with Tom Brady about how he was successful later on in his career in Super Bowl runs, and he had to completely change how he prepped during the Super Bowl because he said you would get so hyped at the start of that Super Bowl, and the longer national anthem, the longer TV breaks, the longer halftime, all of that hype that you had at the start of the game wears off. And that is where what Sean Payton has done with this team is remarkable, and we shouldn't look past it. And it's just amazing that we traded draft picks for a coach who is not a rah-rah David Goggins, get up that sand dune, run it, who's going to carry the boats, but he is the kind of coach who instills an intrinsic sense of motivation in these players. And I encourage you, if you have not already watched it, go watch the hour-long interview that DNVR did with Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton, and you'll just see that the difference that Sean Payton has made. He has instilled a deep sense of belief. Russell Wilson in his press conference yesterday said, we're hungry and humble. And you just see that this culture of this team is different because Sean Payton isn't Dan Campbell. He's not going to get these guys so pumped up with a big thing of chew in his mouth in every single press conference. But over the long run, he has instilled in these players intrinsic motivation, and that carries all the way through. You hear interviews with Javonte, with Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton, with Russell Wilson saying, we're not just trying to make the playoffs. We really want a home playoff game. We want to win the division. And there's a lot of routes and a lot of avenues for that. So the big move that the Broncos are going to make, I truly believe that Saturday night we will have locked in our playoff spot. And I'm going to show you how that's going to happen right here. So we're going to pull up the ESPN playoff standings. And you see right now we are tied in that giant 7-6 mess that Sean Payton in his press conference said, well, I've never seen so many spots at 7-6, but all we know is we're one game out of the division. And it's like, let's go. We just have to pass Patty Melt. And that team that seems to have the train coming right off the tracks, they are losing their composure. They're complaining about a blatant offsides penalty when we know how many times they have been bailed out by a flag. And the fact that they have one break against them when really it didn't even break against them is comical, and it couldn't happen to a better group. I love that. So look in here. We are tied with Houston, Indy, Pittsburgh, all for that last spot in the playoffs. Well, the cool thing is before our game kicks off on Saturday night, Pittsburgh Steelers and Indianapolis Colts go head-to-head. So one of those teams will be 8-6, which is awesome, and then one of them is going to drop down to 7-8. And so by that happening, we then, if we win our game on Saturday night against the Lions, which I think is not just gonna happen, like I think it's going to happen in pretty dramatic fashion. We had our best game of the year last game. We have all the momentum on our side. This team with the Lions is relying on a rah-rah coach, and we know that that is not long-term success. You need someone who can help the players find their own internal motivation, not a coach who just gets people up for one quarter. And we know Sean Payton is his mentor. There's some head games going on there where you can see Dan Campbell is nervous about this upcoming game because Sean Payton's his teacher. Like everything he knows is from Sean Payton, and that's a great advantage to have. So if the Broncos beat the Lions on Saturday night, we jump up to 8-6 with one of those teams falling. And so we would be a half game ahead of the Houston Texans and a half game, and we would then be tied with the Cleveland Browns, and we win the tiebreaker with the Cleveland Browns because of the head-to-head. So then if Cleveland loses to the Bears or the Texans lose to the Titans who just beat Miami Dolphins, the best team in the AFC, we are locked into the playoffs, and it's downhill from there. The other awesome thing is that this week the Kansas City Chiefs play the Patriots, and we've heard all week about how Bill Belichick is out in New England, and it would be the most Belichick thing ever to get revenge with Pat Mahomes, to really stick it to the Patriots and say, all right, you really want me out of here, and to pull out all the stops and to outcoach Andy Reid. And when that happens, we literally could be tied for the AFC West, and that is just a tremendous feeling, Broncos country. So Dulich is back. If we win on Saturday, we will be a half game up, just needing the Texans to lose to keep that spot or needing the Browns to lose to keep that spot. Both of those things I think could happen. We would be locked and loaded. We have so much still to break down this week. We got across enemy lines. We're going to go inside with an insider in the Detroit Lions and hear what we need to be on the watch for, what we should be looking out for in this game against the Lions. Thank you so much for watching, Broncos country, and let's ride.